Only four of us?
Meeting is being recorded.
One sec. I'm going to just welcome everybody to 2024's first virtual book club, and Happy New Year to everybody.
To you.
Some of us were here a little bit earlier, and I know that we were chomping at the bit to start talking about what we've been reading. So without further ado.
Oh, Rona, let's hear what you've got. Come on, hurry up.
Okay, it better be good because I've got Carol here and Katie and I want everybody else. I better be good. Well, I'll start off with the second one, The Paris Daughter. Anybody read The Paris Daughter by Christine Hermel? You read it, Carol? Did you like it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Arlene, you read it too?
It was very
Yes.
good. I recommended. Did you read it, Katie?
Not yet, no.
Okay, but I am in the middle of this book called Homecoming by Kate Morton. Honestly, it is beyond. It is so fantastic, and it's I think about 600 and some odd pages, which I'm thrilled because I don't want it to end. And I find with this book, you have to read every page. You are not allowed to skip over things that you find a little boring. You know what happens sometimes? Because you can't imagine how many times I've gone back to the beginning to make sure I understood what I read. That's the kind of book it is. You have to understand it as it goes along. It is absolutely fantastic. And I think it's new, relatively new, 2022 or 2023. I don't know. I have to look through I would love somebody to read it, like anybody here, and just to let me know what you think. Homecoming. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like
Did you get it from the library?
I got it from the library, and I got it quite quickly. I was waiting for another book, and then this book came, and I was surprised because I heard it was wonderful. And I figured, well, there's going to be a long waiting list. There is for the Barbara Streisand one. So what can I tell you? You know, so I figured this one because I heard it was fun. And this one, it's just, it's amazing. I really,
You look on the spine.
Yeah, let me put my glasses on. What does it say here? Hold on. Yeah, 2023. Yes, it's 2023. And what she wrote, let me tell you what she wrote. She wrote The Lake House. Wasn't that made into a movie? The Lake House. It was. She wrote The Clockmaker's Daughter, The Secret Keeper, The Distant Hours, The Forgotten Garden, and The House at Riverton.
Right.
I don't know if any of you, but this one, it's beyond. I don't ever want it to end. I read it at night, but I'm telling you, you have to read every word and know exactly what she's saying about. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that's going to be you're going to find out at the end. That's all. It goes back from an incident that happened in 1958 to 2018. When 60 years later, and it's something that happened and you don't understand what happened, why, and there are a lot of people, and it's a jigsaw puzzle.
So you say, Rona, would you say it's like what kind of genre would you fit it in?
I would say, well, it's from 1958 it starts, so it's not like historical, you know, it's like goes back from 58 to 2018. I would say it's more
I'm stuck.
Detective is to make it trite. It's not detective. It's way better than that. It's like you know what, Katie? Family saga.
Okay.
A family saga with family secrets.
It's just brought some announcement saying that. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's how I could put it.
Addie, I'm just gonna mute you for right now, okay?
Okay.
What's the name of the book, Katie, that Rona's talking about?
Homecoming by Kate Morton.
Homecoming? Okay.
Homecoming by Kate Morton, and really a family saga with secrets. You know, like I love that kind of book, you know, the secrets, but it only goes back 60 years, but it's constantly going back and forth. So you know what happened then, and then they tell you what's happening now. I think it's just, I want somebody else to tell me what they think.
It's interesting because I'm on the library site and Homecoming is Belda Plain. They don't have the one that you're talking about.
Maybe, did
Yeah,
you
you're
check,
right. Maybe it was the Homecoming, I don't know.
I'll try.
Homecoming, Kate Morton, and I did get it from the library.
Rona, what I just want to say is the Barbara Streisand book, it's
Yeah.
very heavy. And a friend of mine suggested I read it on ebook and that, or whatever. And she sent it to me. So if you know somebody, or I could send it to you, she said it's
Oh, I
easier to
love-
just hold your iPad. She says, and then she says, you don't have 3 weeks. You can go back and forth anytime you want. So I'd like to share
Oh.
that.
Oh, that'd be wonderful, Carol. I appreciate that.
I
would
brought it
love-
back. It was just so heavy. I kept putting it on this side, on this thigh, on this side, up, down.
But did you, I hear, you
Yeah.
know what? I hear it's good. My sister, who's
I-
an avid reader, she lives
Okay.
in New York. Katie, she's the one that told me to read Homecoming. She's an unbelievable reader. And
But-
she
but
loved
don't-
it,
but-
Carol.
Yeah, but don't cancel your reservation because the
I know.
photos
Okay,
in
thank
the
you,
book
Thank you.
are
oh,
magnificent, and they're not the same as on the ebook or iBook or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So
I'm actually reading it on the ebook.
are you?
and
I'm reading, yeah.
Are you
yeah, she
enjoying it?
starts right from the beginning. Anyway, okay, so yeah,
Something just
That's- I
happened
want to-
here.
What
I
happened?
Sorry.
lost
What
everybody.
happened?
Addie, no, you haven't lost everyone, but Addie is sharing her screen, which
Yeah, exactly.
you have
can-
another book you read?
I think
Why is she doing that?
Yeah, yeah,
it's
the
but
screen
it's
is
an
on.
accident. If you could, I think Addie's helper is with her. Would you mind stopping the screen share?
Yeah, I know, it's weird.
Yeah.
Rona,
Uh,
you missed me, my idea of a great,
Okay,
the Covenant of Water.
The
And
That's
that's
Covenant
another,
a
maybe-
700
very
pager.
thick book. Oh,
Katie, maybe you can disable screen sharing for
I'm
participants.
gonna do that. Yeah, I'm just
The
gonna.
Covenant of Water, Carol?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And if you go to the library this afternoon, I'll have brought back my copy. Another
I just read,
700.
I'm
It was
reading,
too-
I can't, okay, that'd be great. I appreciate it. That's wonderful, the Covenant of Water. And Carol, the other Carol Rabinovich, how will you'll email me? How are you gonna do the Barbara Streisand?
Yeah, I'm
book?
gonna try to do it that way. Somebody sent it to me and I sent it to, so you have iBooks, right? You have the app for books like that?
No, actually, I don't. I have a Kindle. I don't have the app because I have a Kindle. So I don't bother. I put everything on,
Oh.
I buy the book and put it on my
It might
Kindle.
work.
Don't worry about it. I'll wait for
I'll
it.
send it to you.
I can always get the app
Can I-
anyway.
Or ask some of your other friends.
It might not work on Kindle because I think they have a
No,
proprietary
it's not gonna
software.
work on Kindle. Kindle, the
Because
only
I
thing
use
that
I
works, you
use
have to buy
Kobo
the
for
book.
I use Kobo for library books.
It's
So
okay,
you can get
Carol.
that. Get the app.
Yeah, I'll get the app and then I'll be in touch. So I can't read it yet anyway. Maybe I'll buy it on my Kindle. I don't know. I can share it with some of my kids.
So I went to the iCloud or whatever it is, and it says the waiting list is 7 weeks.
Oh, there we are. Okay. The waiting
There
list
we
is
are.
what?
There we
7
are.
weeks.
Sorry about that.
7 weeks. Mhm.
Yeah, anyway, I'll see what I'll read something else in the meantime. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay, so we were on the Covenant of Water, which is also too thick. And I read the synopsis.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm very spoiled now. I'm sorry if it's okay if I could take a turn. That I like these page turners. I'm into these thrillers and mysteries and also biographies. So I don't know. Should I take my turn now and just say?
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
All right. So Britney Spears actually wrote The Woman in Me. It's easy reading and it's her side of the story. It is amazing how mean her own father was and how controlling and how they played mind games with her that she couldn't get her own lawyer. till finally, I think it was 13 or 14 years, she found somebody. And he said, of course you were allowed to get your own lawyer. Okay, anyway, there were other things, and she talked about her relationships. I recommend it. It's easy reading, and it's she was making money for them, and how they wouldn't allow her to see her children. They were mean, and this lawyer now has put a stop for her father to contact her. So that was good. And the other was Page Boy. I don't know, by Elliot Page. Did I mention it last time?
I feel like you might have. I feel like
Okay.
it's come up before, but I haven't. But go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so that's also a biography of Ellen Page, who became a male, and her trials and tribulations and how she was picked on. So that was a good one. Then I read Most Adorable Sunshine Nails by a Vietnamese Canadian. Her family came from Vietnam and opened a nail salon in Toronto. So I love these Canadian stories, and how they all worked hard, and then this big company opened up across the street, and how and each chapter is a different character: the mother, the father, the child, the friend, the cousin, and then even the person who was doing it. I didn't put the author's name, but you could find it. Sunshine Nails. It's adorable. The other one, I think also I may have mentioned, The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was cute. Happiness, I did. I tried to read.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. One sec, Carol.
By
Carol.
what's his name? All right.
Carol.
James McGuire.
Carol, can you hear me? Sorry,
Which
the
one?
sound just went really wonky for a little bit, so we didn't hear anything after Sunshine Nails, which, by the way, to everyone, is by Mai Nguyen, and it looks like it's a fiction book. Is it not a fiction book?
Yes, it's fiction.
Fiction.
It's fiction, but you can see how it was based on a true story.
Yeah. And but it sounded like the trope is very much like along the lines of like You've Got Mail, or, like very romantic comedy, where like this small independent business and then a big box sort of opens up near it, and then the duality and
Right. So when the sound went off, I was mentioning The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride.
I haven't read it yet, but I want to.
Okay. It's very hard to get into. I couldn't understand what he's talking about. So I go to Google, and I like to see what people say. I go to Goodreads. I go just to Friends in Fiction. And I wasn't the only one. Apparently it's all over the place, and I just couldn't get into the story. And last but not least, ladies, no gentlemen, I am reading and loving The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. She wrote The Maid. This one is even more delightful. So, of course, there was again, the well-known author keels over when he's supposed to make a speech and do a secret, and she's head maid, and she talks about how important she is and how her gran told her certain things. But the person in charge, the detective, says to her, well, we're going to have to look into the tea. Oh, she said, I could tell you it was English breakfast. I made it this morning. But that's not what, of course, the detective was looking at. It's just those kind of sweet, laughable, smiley little tidbits. So I just got it. And you know what? It's just so nice. I'm almost halfway through. I was hoping to finish it by today, but it's not necessary because I have it for another week or so, and I just want to share it with you. It's delightful.
What's it called, Carol?
The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose.
Yes, okay.
Did anyone else here read The Maid? Nita Prose's first one? I read that one too, and I loved it. I thought it's a sweet, it's a fast read, and all the characters were delightful. The writing was good. And
Isn't it a series on Netflix?
No, it's different.
That's a different one.
Completely
This one,
story.
the book is much lighter. It's murder mystery sort of.
Okay.
I think the show on Netflix is a little bit more hard.
Dramatic. dramatic.
heart strings
Oh,
pulling
okay.
and yeah. But am I wrong? I feel like she's Canadian.
Yeah, yes, that's the other thing. Thank you very much. I'm just so into all our Canadians. Yes,
Mhm.
let me get my glasses. I have the book in front of me. Yes,
But
yes,
it's
yes.
so nice to hear. I mean,
Toronto.
yes,
Mhm.
it's so nice to hear that because oftentimes these days, so this is a high horse that I get onto sometimes, so bear with me, is that I feel like the bar for a first novel has been set so high now. It used to be that you would come out with your first novel or your first record or your first whatever. And it would be good, obviously, but it didn't have to be out of the ballpark good. And then you would get better as time went on because you had time to craft. Now I feel like the first thing that comes out is so like it has to be this good. And then the next one is almost invariably a disappointment to readers. And so it's really nice to hear, Carol, that she hit it out of the park again with this one.
Right, right. I did say that was my last, but I have to share with everybody. I'm into Harlan Coben. He's a best-selling author. He has 5 Netflix series. I just finished Fool Me Once, riveting. I think it's 6 or 8 episodes, back and forth, twists up and down. And then I started Safe, but I didn't finish.
This
Anyway,
is you're talking about the show that you
the show,
started?
but
Yeah.
he's also Canadian. Harlan, Harlan, Coben, Coben, and 5 of his best-selling novels are on Netflix. So I like to watch the movies because I have so many other books to read.
I don't
But
think
they're all,
he's Canadian.
oh wait, could be American. Hold
Yeah,
on.
he's an American.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
But I'll say I started to watch, my husband and I started to watch Fool Me Once just last week because
Mhm.
many of you know Arlene and Terry. Now you can know as well. My memory is terrible, very, very bad. If it hasn't happened in like the last 48 hours, I have trouble remembering it. But we started to watch it and it didn't grab me because the TV, I think it's Fool Me Once, is Joanna Lumley in it?
What's
I
it
don't know who
called,
the.
Kate?
Fool Me Once.
I'll look it up for you.
I thought there was one, and I thought it was Fool Me Once, and I thought it was with Joanna Lumley. So Joanna Lumley is a British actress who I just find absolutely delightful. And so I started to watch it, and I was just like, nope, it didn't do it for me. But maybe it was not even Fool Me Once because, like I said, my memory. But
Yes, it is her. Yes. Oh, yes, Dame Joanna.
yeah, so maybe
Lovely.
I should go back to it. All right, I'll put it
Okay,
back in
but
my.
but may I add also? So like I said, I go to Google. I like to see what it's about and what people think. And a lot of people, it didn't do it for them. Most of us thought it was fantastic because I keep seeing on Facebook, watch fantastic. So you see, it's not for everybody.
It's
But
almost like it takes all kinds, isn't it?
yes, exactly. and that's what makes the world go round.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Now,
I have to go
Toby.
because I have to leave soon. I have something coming on at
All
11
right,
o'clock.
go ahead, Toby.
Jewish Portugal.
Mm.
Oh,
I read Elvis and Me by Priscilla Presley,
Oh.
and I found it fascinating. What a life she led with him. And he really was very controlling. And she had to do things exactly how he wanted her to do them. She had to dress the way he wanted her to dress, even though it was too old for her. She had to have that fancy hairdo, that pompadour thing that he wanted very much. Lots of eye makeup and stuff like that. I mean, she lived a life that nobody else ever lived, but she what's the word I'm looking for?
was she controlled like the royals? Like Kate Middleton has all these rules?
Did she have rules or did
Yeah,
he?
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had to go to sleep, like he used to stay up all night and then like they'd go to bed 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, but she was a student. She had to go to school. And he was the one, he gave her pills. he said, take this, it'll help you to get through your day at school. Not good. She was young, very young.
You know what I always worry about these autobiographies by these actors and so on. It's one-sided, I find a lot of the times, and is it really all that truthful? Like I'm wondering if it's I don't know if it's all true. Like is she really? And as I said, it's one-sided. Maybe if he could give his other side, I never sort of like trust these autobiographies of actors and actresses, even though I'm sure it was a wonderful book, Toby, it would be very interesting, but I wonder, I would question the validity of what she's saying.
Well, I saw the movie. I went to see the movie at our theater.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what interested me. And then I asked for
Yeah.
the book and then I read it. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
similar.
Well,
So
this is what I find with any autobiography and any biography, really, any piece of writing, anything. There's this big discussion often, like sort of in the background of objectivity versus subjectivity.
That's right.
My own
exactly.
personal opinion is that everything is subjective. Like, of course, this is the truth as this person knows it. Whatever it is that they're recounting. There's a wonderful quote that I like to pull out in moments like these from the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And the narrator of that book says at one point, it's true even if it didn't happen. Now, it sounds like a funny thing to say, but when you think about times when you've gotten together with family members or friends and you've been in like you're talking about the same event, the same thing that you both experienced at the same time. And sometimes you'll bring it up, you remember it so clearly, and they don't remember it at all, or else they remember it completely differently of how things unrolled or unfolded. And I think that in the same way, like we're influenced by so many different things, including our memories, which I've said before, unreliable sometimes. But even if we've written things down, there are emotions inform it, our perceptions of what is happening at the time. Like Elvis might have been super controlling, but like, and I'm just going to throw these random things. I don't know a lot about Elvis, but like, I would not be surprised to find out that he had been super controlled by like the studios, et cetera, and that maybe this
Colonel
was like one
Parker,
of his
right.
ways of like compensating, of controlling someone else to take control of the one thing that he could. It was also in terms of era, like men, women, like I would not be terrifically surprised to hear of other wives experiencing similar things in the States and the southern states and with backgrounds. But I think that we have to take all of it with that little bit of a grain of salt, because as true as somewhat, and sometimes too, I tell stories that I tell them to either make myself look better or to make some like it's like clearly this was my husband's misunderstanding. It wasn't that I did not express. Do you know what I mean? So we have to sort of balance those things in the narratives as well.
But I love it. I love it. It's easy reading. It's the person's side of the story. There's always three sides, right?
At least.
yeah.
Oh, at least.
Has anybody read Spare? Talking about
Yes.
telling the
Oh,
truth.
it just won the award, at the Golden Globes. There, it's a series on net, won an award.
Yeah.
Golden Globes. I was wondering about it. It was a book, obviously. Everything on Netflix was a book.
I
No,
didn't know.
Mona, this was the one the prince wrote.
It's
the
Prince
book.
Harry.
Harry.
It's Prince
Spare.
Harry.
Oh,
Not the bear, Spare.
Spare,
That was
oh,
good.
you
Yeah.
know, they can't, it's like ridiculous. I mean, between these series and, okay, so what's this one with Prince Harry? The Bear?
Spare.
No,
Spare.
Bear, just Bear, okay.
I didn't know he wrote that book.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not being funny? Spare by Prince Harry?
Oh, I thought
Spare,
you said Bear.
See, that's what I thought, Bear, Bear. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no,
the
Spare
one.
I read.
Of course,
Yeah,
I
Bear
know.
is that series. Oh, Spare, Spare, that's what I heard about,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
And Katie,
it's
I believe everything he said.
so do I. So do I. And now it's coming out in the courts in Britain. He's winning a lot of
Yes.
lawsuits and things
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, they had no right to record, to publicize his private conversations. But I hear there's another book by him and Megan, and I can't find the name of it because I want to reserve it.
No, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of another book just yet.
He
I'm
was
not a
really
fan
treated
of
so.
those.
He was treated
Anything
so.
with the Queen and the royal family and all their stories, no, I'm not a fan. I guess I'm just skeptical, maybe, whatever.
I love it.
People like
I
Well,
love
think you're
their.
right. Yeah, that not
I love
everything is
their.
perfect. It's
You
wonderful.
must have watched The Crown, Carol, I'm sure.
Oh, you better believe it. But the last, the last season, actually, they gave a lot of time to Princess Margaret, who was also treated shabbily. And to think that cow, that what's her name? I can't even stand her. Is Queen.
Camilla.
Yeah, and you know what I
Camilla.
like the best? She doesn't want to be queen. She hates that role, and I thought, good, you cringe. But they did the best makeover I have ever seen, ever, of any actress, of any author, of even the singer there who won on America's Got Talent. How they transformed that ugly big cow to look so good makes me sick.
I still think she looks terrible.
Okay, don't give me any.
Talking about Carol.
Arlene, you go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just want to
Camilla.
say, don't give me any spoilers about the very last episode of season 6 because I'm watching it tonight for The Crown.
Oh, I want to do
I
that.
have two
But I
more
agree.
episodes. I have two
But
more.
I agree with what you're saying, that they're giving time for Margaret and how she was also short, kind of shafted. And yeah, it's interesting. But I found that series, we're not talking about a book right now, but the series was very up and down. Like some episodes were really engaging and some were just not.
I agree, 100%. The
The
actress who won for playing Diana, she
Yeah.
looked so different at the Globes. I couldn't recognize her. I couldn't believe it was
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
She always had her eyes down. She always looked like demure, whatever.
I didn't like the political stuff. It was too much for me because I don't know
Me
very
too.
much about British politics.
Right,
Uh,
right.
Yeah.
I looked
I
at
have
The Crown.
two more episodes,
Okay.
but
Or-
they're focusing on William now.
Yeah, William and Kate. Yeah. So I won't give you any spoiler alerts, but you know the ending. So,
Oh, we know the
Queen
ending.
dies. That's a spoiler alert. The Queen dies.
no, it's what of course very funny. I mean that they get married, but could I just say one thing? I don't know if you haven't seen that yet, right? It's just interesting how her mother pushed her.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say
Yeah.
that. I was just gonna say
We
that.
didn't know that. She must be ripping mad how they portrayed her. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I would have liked to
Mm.
see more of like his previous girlfriends, like Chelsea, who broke up because she couldn't stand all the publicity, and the other
He
one.
lost her because of that. He
Yeah, I
lost
know.
her because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a soap opera. Sounds like Days of Our Lives. It's like. But it's
Toby, did you
funny,
have any
I
other
guess.
books that you wanted to talk about?
Yes, I'm reading Leah, Lea. I was reading it for my my book club, and then they postponed it. This is from my synagogue. I'm finding it hard to get into it. It started to take place in Montreal. This is where her family was born, and then she traveled all around the world, and she got into different clubs and things like that, and communism and this, that, and the other. I'm finding it hard, but somebody wants it, so I have to send it back today, and then I'll try it again. And
Is
see
it a
if I
true
can-
story? A true story about somebody?
I don't believe so. No,
Oh,
no. Another one that I have to give back that I was just starting to get into is Code Name Sapphire.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yes, I'm starting.
Did you
to-
read that, Carol?
But I have to give it back. And another one I'm having trouble to get into, but I have to give it back today, is The Enemy Beside Me.
What's
Naomi
that about?
Reagan.
Oh.
Did anybody read that?
No. Say it again. Enemies, what?
The
Inside,
Enemy Beside Me.
beside me.
Yeah. So
So
I
that's
put it on,
that's
I
Naomi
told her to put
Reagan.
my
She
name.
also did Carol. She
Oh.
also did an unorthodox match, and like she has a bunch of book.
Yeah, I've read a lot of her books, but this one, for some reason, I had trouble getting into. Now I have to give it back. So I put my name down for those 3 books again, and eventually they'll come back to me and I'll continue from where I am.
It's amazing how fast those 3 weeks pass.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, I'm getting all kinds of emails from the library. For 3 years, I didn't get. Now, you owe this, you owe this, you owe this, you owe this. All of a sudden, I'm getting all these emails.
It might be something to do with the news, like with the system. I know that I know that we switched over our system a year ago, but in the last few months, we had to, because we changed another thing that had to modify the system. It might have something to do with that.
Aha.
I don't know why they're telling me how much money I saved every time.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. That's
by
something that
buying
I
the book.
remember when I was in library school. It's something that the New Brunswick, or was it New Brunswick? There was a library in New Brunswick. I think it was the Halifax Public Library that they used to add it to the end of each, like, and I just love that because being I know that I'm shocking all of you, a big proponent of libraries and library usage. And this is it, I feel like it makes it a little bit less galling if you have to pay a late fee ever to be like, well, I may have paid $5, but I didn't spend 40 on the book. And then I can see how much money I save. And then you like think about, yeah, the sharing, there's less waste, there's less everything. I like it.
Is
I
the
like being
library
told that.
charging late fees? I think the library is not charging anymore.
We
late fees,
abolished most of them.
Right.
There are still late fees for the new releases. I
Ah.
personally, as much as I would love to get rid of late fees entirely, I think that there should also be late fees for books that are on wait lists.
Mhm.
Because this
Not
is the
fair.
truth of the matter is that some people are considerate in life and some people
Mhm.
are less
Right.
considerate. And I think that if
Exactly.
you know that you're gonna get dinged for it, you think, do I really need to finish it now? In which case, fine, I'll get dinged. And otherwise you think someone else is looking forward to this. I should give
Right.
it.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. It
I
really
agree
irks
too.
me. And I hope maybe Janine will change it. Because if it's on a wait list and you have it for 3 weeks, that's enough.
Yeah.
And like
It
Toby
is.
says,
I
if you
agree.
can't finish it, put it back
Right.
on reserve it again.
Yeah.
I thought that was all in
Oh.
play already. That if it was
Only for new books, she
Only
says.
for new books, I think.
Really?
Sorry, Terry has something to
I'm
say.
I'll be back. The library is delivering my books.
Okay, Terry, go ahead.
I'm just curious, how are these decisions made? In other words, I'm just curious about it, how, is it a group that makes it or the head of the library? Who makes and how do they?
So, from my understanding, because while I'm technically part of management, I'm not high up in management. So there are lots of decisions that get made that I don't know about. But so basically what happened, it is every decision that gets made for the library. So like recently, I don't know if you are all aware of this, but we recently changed our library hours as well.
Yes.
So we've changed our hours starting this year. So just starting this past week, open only till 9 instead of till 10. And this allows us to redistribute our staff a little bit better. And also, so what ends up getting looked at whenever any sort of big change happens ends up being a conversation sort of between City Hall and library upper management. Of course, things that inform that are library workers' experiences and perceptions, the input that we get, of course, from all the patrons, the budget, the statistics of how many people are using the library for what purposes, at what time, da, 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 da. So that's partly how like our budgets get directed, and when there are changes, then it's definitely not one person making the decision. It's a conversation.
But really what we want to know is, I think what Terry is asking, what I want to know is, what's the difference between a new book and a waitlist book? A waitlist book is something usually fairly new that
Mhm.
people all want to read quickly. Am I right, Terry?
So
It's one of them.
I think part of that ends up being like, again, how it ends up getting filed in the system. So for example, to say all new books will still generate fines. Well, a new book is something that's come out. I'm not 100% what the definition is of new, for like if it's that came out in the last year or in the last 6 months, but it's that it's cataloged and it's sort of like put in that category in the computer system of new book, and then we change things when it's not new anymore. When something's on a wait list, it doesn't have that same sort of like red flag immediately for the computer system. And also something that is waitlisted, it might be because, say, I have 400 people in my book club and I have chosen this older book, or and so then everybody wants it, or like we've talked about this book that's not new, but because so many people watch this virtual book club that they are very excited about the sounds of this new book, and so then everyone puts their name on a list. Now, it could be something that came out 10 years ago. That's what I've noticed before with like the Mount Sinai Book Club book reading list. Sometimes it's not a new book, but the Mount Sinai list always has people waiting for these books because they don't distribute the books. So it's I think it's just a very boring, a long-winded, granted, but boring answer to why why it's just for the new books and it hasn't filtered down to waitlisted books, because there's not a clear way of how to delineate it in computer systems.
Normally you have a 3-week, I thought it was only 2 weeks.
No, 3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Unless
I
it-
tell
unless-
myself to read that book.
Yeah, unless it's a fast read. And that's
Right.
our fast reads are usually waitlisted books too. And those are the ones with also that have fines associated with them. That if you say that you're going to read it in a week, it's that you have to read it in a week. And if you don't, then you get really dinged.
And another question while we're on all this here.
I'm going
So
to just interrupt 1 second and ask Terry, did that answer your question ish?
Yeah, yeah.
Ish.
Oh, Terry, I love your purple decor.
It's not though. It's it looks purple, you're right, but it's gray. I love purple. I do a lot of things, but you're right, it looks purple. Yeah, I wish the walls are sort of purple, which don't look it, but no, it's interesting.
Oh,
It
the
does
walls look gray.
yeah. Anyhow, thank you.
Okay.
Ladies, I'm going to have to leave you. I'm sorry. I'll see you again next time.
It was
Thanks,
nice to see you,
everybody.
Toby. Take care.
Yes.
Happy New Year, Toby.
Thank
Happy
you.
New
well.
Year.
You. Thank you.
Yeah, stay well, stay well. So this morning I wanted to reserve something that I see is new from Indigo, The Wives. So first, of course, I checked, and then I went, and what did I want to say? Yeah, we don't have it, so I suggested a purchase, but I may have done that last week.
That's
so
okay.
in that, okay, who gets those emails? Mairead?
It depends on which department sort of, or who is in charge of ordering that particular thing. But yeah, if you've requested something twice, it's fine. We'll only put you down for once when we order it.
I just remember what I wanted to mention. So when I get an email that the book that I requested is in, I have like 5-6 days it's sitting on the shelf for me to pick it up. And I think, gee, that's a long time, because if there are other people waiting for it, it makes the time much longer. You don't have to answer that. It's just a comment.
Well, it's true, but at the same time, like if I were given 2 days to pick up a book and I didn't come here every single day, like that's a hard thing to fit into your schedule if you work full time, have kids, have parents that you're taking care of, have other things, just like grocery shopping, just the normal sort of life of adulting. So, and you might be out of town, like for 2 days that you get this notice. You're not out you're not gone for a long period of time, but you don't want to miss your spot in the queue. It's sort of the happy medium that was decided on for that should give anyone who needs it enough time to come pick it up. And if they can't, then they should also give them enough time to call in to say you can pass it along to the next person and put me back on the list. And if they can't do that, then they can put their name back on for the bottom of the list because they missed their change.
You have to live in Cote-Saint-Luc to belong to the, somebody asked me, she doesn't live in Cote-Saint-Luc, she wants to attend one of the series or something at the library. Does you have to live in Cote-Saint-Luc or
You don't have
no?
to live in Cote-Saint-Luc it depends. So you don't have to live in Cote-Saint-Luc to become a member of the library.
Okay.
However, if you don't live in Cote-Saint-Luc, then you do have to pay a membership because
Oh,
any of you who live here in Cote-Saint-Luc who are members of the library, we get our money from your taxes. That's how all municipal libraries work. If someone lives on the island of Montreal and wants to become a member, they're welcome to join, but then they have to pay a yearly membership fee because we don't get their money in taxes. Their tax money for libraries goes to the Montreal Public
what
Library.
is the yearly membership fee? Do you know?
I believe it's on our website, but last I knew it was $175 a year for adults. It was $100 a year for seniors and
Oh,
children. And there used to be anyway, it used to be that there was a different structure for people who lived in Montreal West and Hampstead. I'm not sure if that's still true. I know Hampstead doesn't have their own library, so they used to have a reimbursement program. I'm not sure if they still do. Don't work in Hampstead. But that's our membership fee. And then like the same as if one of you wanted to become a member of the Westmount Public Library, they also have a yearly membership fee if you don't live in Westmount. If you want to become a member of the Montreal Public Library System, same New York Public Library, same thing.
I hate to tell you, it's $30 to be a member of the Atwater Library.
Yeah, well, the Atwater the Atwater
Not
Library is
public.
exactly. So
Oh.
the Atwater Library is a little bit kettle of fish because they don't get their funding through municipal taxes because it's not a municipal library. But I will just like sidebar as well to say that I know that with Cote-Saint-Luc and Westmount anyway, and probably other library systems, there may be some programs where you do have to live on the territory to be a part of. So my example for Cote-Saint-Luc would be our home library service with deliveries. So we deliver to people who have mobility issues, but they have to live in the territory of Cote-Saint-Luc. They cannot live outside of that because we have to set a limit somewhere.
Yeah.
But for most of the programs, which getting back to the original question, to the best of my knowledge, most of the programs are open to everyone. There may be some that give priority to residents and or library members. But those would be noted if you go to our library website and there's a particular program that your friend wants to attend, it should say, once she clicks on the program, like the particular program, it should say what the requirements are.
So can I just add two things? A friend of mine in Hampstead has paid for her membership, but she goes to Florida for 3 months, so she's allowed to put a hold on it. I didn't know if you knew that. So when she comes back, because I recommend a lot of books to her. So that's the first thing. And a lot of the lectures are on YouTube. Like last night was really good. Mike Cohn interviewed Dr. Christopher Labos. And it was short and sweet. He talked about his book. So yeah, the library has, like anybody could access the speakers, even like Dr. Joe Schwartz. So I like that also. We're very generous. We're very generous.
The library is wonderful. This library here, we're very lucky to have it.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah, and great staff, all of them.
Yeah. Oh, great staff. They are all so friendly and so helpful. They're amazing. They really are.
Keep it up, guys. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Well, thank you on behalf of all of my lovely colleagues. I've been here for 15 years now. I just celebrated my anniversary, and there's a reason. There's a reason why I stay. It might have a
Right.
little something to do also with having wonderful patrons to help.
What is the
Just to
staff?
throw it back to you a little bit.
How many are on the staff approximately?
How many what?
How many
On
people
staff?
help? Yeah,
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know.
you don't have staff
Talk
meetings?
amongst yourselves and I'll count
Well,
people
just
in my
what I
head.
want to say, is while you're thinking of that, there are many that are downstairs that are not, that we don't see. They're not
That's why I
visible.
was wondering, yeah.
There's a lot, because all of a sudden I'll see somebody or there's something and I'm saying, where did you come from? Oh, I've been working here for years. I'm the whatever. I'm thinking, what? So yeah, it's not just who we see in the front on reference or checkout or children's library. Yeah, there's quite a few.
Mhm.
I'd say about 40. I just went through my list. There are about
Wow.
40 of us.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there are some technicians who you wouldn't see likely because they're the ones who are doing cataloging and stuff. We have, yeah, so some people work behind the scenes doing ordering, cataloging, and such. Other people are more front of house, and they're the ones that you see all the time. Some of us like to bounce between different areas and do a little bit of
Even
all.
in this, even in this digital age, Katie, libraries are still going strong, right? Is that what it is?
I would love
Like
to
the
say
book.
yes entirely, although I have to say also that probably for at least 40 years, probably longer. It's sort of like talking about the book industry is like everyone's always like worried that libraries
Right.
are going to die out. So I finished my librarianship degree, I don't know, like maybe 8 years ago. And this is something that is always was very much highlighted throughout the degree was about how libraries are not just repositories of books. Some of us use them mostly to borrow books, but also they're social places. They are study spaces. They are like mental health spaces sometimes. They're sometimes like it's what we call in like the third place. And so it's like you have home, you have work, you have another place where you feel at home, that where you feel like it gives you that extra something. And that's kind of the goal for, I think, a lot of public libraries anyway. But there's always the fear that, and there's the concern when there doesn't seem to be as much usage. And you know that with digital books, then people worry,
Right.
oh, where are they? Why don't we have people coming in? And sometimes it's because people are using things remotely or people are, and especially after COVID, a lot of things changed for everyone. But no, I agree 100% that libraries are still very, very necessary because I feel like what we try to do is to serve everyone. And of course, you can't please everyone all the time, all of that, but we do our best and we give people access to things that they wouldn't otherwise have available to them. Or if they did, if it was available, then there would be a cost associated, which is not great all the time, right?
Mhm.
And it's like a
Can
community,
I?
with the children's library so involved with programming for kids. It's fabulous, all ages. It's just,
It is the senior community. I mean, they have the movies, I love the series of foreign films and you watch them and then you discuss them. I mean, it's just wonderful. It's so informative and there's so many and bead making, right, Carol? All the bead making and everything.
Right.
Right?
Well, there's more. I don't know. It's not public, but there's even an open studio on Tuesday and Thursdays, 11 to 1. You could come and paint, collage, do
Right.
anything in that room. They're there now, actually. Yeah, he doesn't want to make it public because then there's just so many people that you can sit around the table. So, but I'm sharing it with you if you want to go there, and if you don't have to go every week. And if you know somebody who would like to.
Right. It's wonderful to have.
FaceTime video. Sorry.
Oh, boy.
That's loud. Hold on.
Whoops.
Arlene, you were going to say something.
Yeah. Yeah, can I jump in and talk about a couple of books?
Of course, yes, please.
Just to go back, I get
Oh,
to
As
the book
much
club.
as I
Why?
love the like, yay, the library stuff, and I'm sort of like
Oh,
letting it go.
I love hearing that too, not to take away from it for sure. I think the library is great.
What have you been reading?
So I wanted to mention, and I usually do not get into autobiographies, at least in the past. And somehow I've been reading a few of them. And so one of them obviously is Barbara Streisand.
Mhm.
My name is Barbara. So yes, I'm reading on my tablet, and so I'm not getting the heavy weight of it. The one thing I found very disorienting about reading it that way, I was reading and reading, and I didn't realize when I started how long the book was.
Yeah.
So I'm reading, and then I look at what I've only read 13%. Not possible. I actually, if this discussion had been a week ago, I would have said, that's it, I'm fed up. What a ridiculous book. All she can do is talk about herself and what she ate and where she went and every little detail in like minute detail. But what I did was I looked at the table of contents and I said, I'd like to read about Yentl because I liked that movie. You know, it had a special meaning for me. Let me see what she says about the making of it. And from that point, I was hooked and I continued reading because she was talking more about let's say the movies she made or the concerts and everything that went into the making of it, how it was very challenging for her as a woman to be treated seriously as a director, to both direct and act at the same time. And as you mentioned, Katie, obviously it's subjective, it's her point of view. And I'm sure there's a lot of probably angry people out there reading what she said about them. But again, she was angry because people were saying things about her over the decades, and this was her way of replying to them. So I'm not even sure if I have a couple of 100 pages or whatever. At some point, it's a loan, so I'll return it. But at some point, I might go back and read more. But I can't help but feel that she could have somehow done this in less space. And maybe she just wanted to make a point by making this huge volume. And I'm sure the pictures are wonderful. I'm not seeing them as well in the ebook. But yeah, so that's my take on Barbara. And I've read a few other, well, I read Spare and a few other biographies. And that's not my usual choice. I usually go into historical fiction like World War II and early 20th century, or adventure, mystery, suspense, things like that. So I'm intrigued kind of more now by biographies, but also being selective because I feel there really is that tendency to get pulled into the author's viewpoint and start to believe it as the truth. And I really like the more third person and, you know, being able to put my own thoughts and my own interpretations into a book. So I'll say that about biographies. And the other one I wanted to mention, which I know was talked about recently, was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And I'm halfway through the Netflix version of it. I have to say, if you have not read the book, read the book. I read this years ago, and the prose is just incredible. It's not just the story being interesting, but like every word the author chooses is just so elegant and beautiful. And I have to say, I read one of his other books after about Grace, and I was very disappointed. It just did not measure up at all. So I definitely recommend that book. If anybody hasn't read it and they've watched on Netflix, it's a totally different experience to read the book. Yeah.
I heard that the book was much better. I heard that.
Yeah.
To read and not to watch. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure like to watch it, it's fine. Just, you know, entertaining as a series, interesting about that period of time, but it doesn't capture you or it didn't capture me in the same way that the book did. Yeah.
I'm so impressed that you all have time to read the books, watch the movies, still show.
Yeah.
When do you do all of this?
I'm wondering the same thing.
I can't get over you ladies. I mean, television doesn't go on in our house at all.
Well,
And
I'm impressed by that.
The only
I
thing
don't watch
for
Netflix.
classical music when I can't find something on the radio, but that's it. And all I
I
read.
have no patience for Netflix. Everybody's telling me, watch this, but I
Right.
don't watch any of it. I would rather sit down and read a book, Carol. I agree with you.
Mhm.
Like the rest of it, just
I'm
not
very
a-
impressed
I
with
would-
Carol without an E, that she reads and she, goes online and reads what people say about the book. She watches the Netflix. I don't know where she gets, and she's an artist on top of everything. When
Yeah. Do you sleep, Carol? Do you sleep?
Uh,
And I'm wearing one of Carol's rings. I'm wearing
Oh,
one of,
yeah.
Oh, how nice.
and I love it, and I
Thank
get
you.
a lot of compliments. So she is an artist.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Never
all of you.
sleep.
I have to answer Carol. So since I had COVID December 1st, it took me a whole month to recuperate. I mean, the cold and the congestion, that left after 2 weeks. I was tired. So every afternoon, I would just sit on the sofa with the sun coming through on the days we had sun, and I would sort of pick up a book and read, and then I would fall asleep. And then I went on with my day, whatever, but I didn't run around. If I had to go out in the morning, that was it. I was home in the afternoon, and I find time in the evening. Very few people, probably nobody calls me at night, and that's my time. After dinner from 7 till whatever, 10:30, 11. I'll either read or I'll watch Netflix or I'll Google. So there's your answer, Carol.
Impressive. I can't stay up that late.
You know what? I just want to say one thing, if I don't want to interrupt anybody, but what bothers me are lately, of the last year or two, are all the political books that have come out, especially in the States. Everybody that worked in the White House or the general or whatever, I know I'm referring to the politics in the state. Everybody comes out with a fucking book. Pardon me, and to me, it's like, I think like you just want the money from the book. Just come out and tell us what it is. Don't write a book so that you can see, that we're not saying a word till you read the book. That's what everybody said. I don't know if it bothers, and I will not pick up one of those books. Because I know, like, they didn't have to write it. They could have just gone on TV and said what a schmuck the guy was or whatever. Did you have to put it in a book? So
We're
I
not
have to
getting
pay for it?
political here, right?
Yeah, but does anybody, the money, that's it. And does anybody else agree with me about that? Because those are
But
books.
who says people
political
are,
books.
but really, do you really think a lot of people are buying these books? I know a lot of
I
people are
think
writing
they
them.
are. I think they're making
so?
money from it. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. Somebody's making money somewhere.
But I
And
mean,
some of
I
them
think
are on the
it's
bestseller list.
I think it's the same as with anything that it's for money. Of course it's for money, and of course they're not going to talk about it until because they want to
Right.
make the money off of it. But that's the same as with any tell-all memoirs, with like it's of course it's getting to people at people's curiosities. But that's it. The beautiful thing is that we don't have to buy them. We don't have
Well,
to
that's
read them.
exactly
We
it.
can
That's
just leave them
exactly it.
be the things that we think are silly or mean-spirited or whatever. Don't give them your money.
Or go on
Exactly.
Google. Go on Google and see what people are
It just
saying about
bothers
it.
me that they're using a book, which I think is almost like sacred. Like we all love to read books, so we must feel the same way. They're taking that milieu. They're taking and they're just making it into like trite, and that bothers me. That bothers me that they're doing that. Like,
Oh,
don't
there's
do
so
it.
much terrible writing out there anyway. There, like, we can't get angry at all the bad writing there is
Right.
out there,
But
or
tell me,
all
are
the
people
bad
find,
stories or bad perspectives or perspectives that don't agree with our own, like,
but are you finding that there are a
don't
lot
stress
of
yourself out about it.
right, exactly.
It's just the
But
political ones that
Not worth your stress.
But you're
Right.
talking political, but aren't you I'm finding every book I pick up, as I start to read it, has a Holocaust base. There's everybody
Yeah, that's a very
seems to be
big.
going
There
through
is a lot.
a period of everything is Holocaust. And I'm looking at this innocent book and I start to read, I said, not another one. And I read it, but does anybody else feel this way? We're very top heavy, it seems to me, in Holocaust. I'm not thinking political. It's political too, of course, but you know what I mean? It's not, I
Maybe
just
because
don't-
people are
maybe-
drawn to that and they'll be able to sell the books if
Mhm.
there's something about it. I don't
Well, it
know.
also depends, right? Like, I mean, a lot of you do get a lot of your books from here, from this library. And I will tell you, I've got I could easily name 12 people off the top of my head. Patrons, I won't, but I could easily, of people who only want to read Holocaust literature. So again, like that influences partly our buying process as well. Carol, with an E, you were saying that you were saying this the last time we saw each other in person too, that like everything that you're picking up has a Holocaust bent. I will tell you that nothing that I've picked up in the last month anyway, memory, um, has had a Holocaust bent, but that's also, it's the books that I'm picking up that I'm choosing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the groups too, because I get a lot of them in my book clubs, but a lot of them are Jewish people in these book clubs and they're wanting it. I don't want it quite personally. So I agree. I mean, it's really the people, you know, that you're getting it from. Yeah.
And it's a funny thing too, because even with, I mean, we have so many Holocaust survivors as well here in the city, and some people will like, they're like, no, I lived through it. I don't want to look at it at all. And other people, it's
Yeah.
exactly what they want over and over. And part of it, again, is like we were talking about subjectivity. They're different perspectives. They're different. Like, was it Carol with any? Were you talking about one that you had read recently from set in Poland?
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
remember the title. Yeah.
And this
But
is
it
it
was
too,
a
is that
little-
like then
it's
having a
similar.
perspective from a different
Yeah.
country also, even though it's a similar,
Mhm.
like the same time frame, it gives a different spin. Or if you find out that you know, the author, like the research the author did, or if it was inspired by a family member, or you know, this is the same story can be told, you know, 20 times and told differently every time because subjectivity. And it helps, I think, a little bit too to add to our just to like bring in a little bit more sort of a wider overview, is like it contributes to our ability to experience empathy, I think. Reading fiction and reading different sort of personal accounts of, or personal perspectives, again, we have to keep in mind that these are subjective. Anything is like, all of them are. There's nothing that can really be set in stone of like, this is what happened and this is what everyone felt when that happened. No, of course not. There's going to be different viewpoints, and it can really help us to try and understand them.
Maybe some of it with feel the sense of a lot of Holocaust literature being around is it's kind of a last chance. It's with the survivor generation is gradually leaving us, and then even the next generation, the first generation, are getting older and reflecting and looking back at their childhood and their life and their parents' lives, and there's more of a need that people feel to preserve this somehow and to express that perspective. So there's just more books out there too.
I can definitely see that. And there's also like such an important time in recent history. And you know what they say, those who don't understand history have, or don't know history, have the tendency to repeat it. And we see these things happening all the time in our news feeds, in the newspapers, in other parts of the world, in similar parts of the world. And we worry. We think like, but what can we do? So we revisit the past to see what could be, what can we learn from it?
Rona, were you the one who suggested The Survivor?
I don't,
Yes.
was I? Well, I forget, my memory. What was it about?
No, it's
The
a
memoir.
survivor who wrote his experience, first person. Katie,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
But
quite
you know
a,
what I find I was gonna say too? I'm sorry, Carol, did you want to
Yeah.
say something?
no, it's fine.
Oh, I find that when it's a book about the Holocaust, I can't read it. I just, I like it, I find it very difficult to read those passages of what happened. I find it very difficult to watch the movies. Schindler's List, I mean, the most wonderful movie, the most wonderful music and everything. But if you would put it on tonight, I mean, I don't think I would watch it. I think I would say, no, I can't watch it. I just find it very, very difficult. So a book about the Holocaust, Carol, would interest me, but yet I know that it just, I can't, like, it just
Very
does something
painful.
to me.
Yeah.
Very painful, that's the word. I just can't, it's the inhumane treatment of men to men. I can't understand that. I just can't understand it. It's like, it can't be real people to do that to people. I can't, it just.
So I feel like you, Rona, because I read a lot of them. I went through a whole series of them, and now I can't either. But I just want to
Right.
say there's a new book out, a biography or autobiography by Geddy Lee. And he mentions it's waiting for me now in the library, but he was interviewed on TV. He was one of the lead singers in Rush, the band. And he devotes a paragraph to his Holocaust survivor parents. And his mother, with her thick Yiddish accent, couldn't say Gary. And that's why his name is Geddy. Geddy Lee. I can just, in my mind, imagine in the heavy Yiddish, Gary, Giddy, 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 and that's how his name is Geddy Lee. So I'm looking forward to reading that book. But like I say, he needed to acknowledge his parents who were Holocaust survivors. But that's just one paragraph, and I don't think he goes into detail. So without getting too political, Rona,
Yeah.
I just want to say the massacre of October 7th, the reports from people who have seen it is horrific. It's 10 times worse than the Holocaust. And it's just, I can't even fathom it. So moving on, just hello, ladies. What other things are we?
Yeah, let's get back to books a little bit. Sorry to switch gears but I haven't heard from Carol and Terry. And Carol, I know that you were going to mention Marie Benedict because I was going to then repeat myself from before we started.
Go ahead.
No, you start. Tell us what you've been reading.
I'm just about finished The First Ladies by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. And it's to me, it's a real fairy tale. It's supposed to be a historical fiction, but to me, it reads more fiction than historical. I mean, they go to coffee. How do these women know that they went for coffee? They're filling in the blanks of what they feel would have happened. But to me, it's just so much fill in the blanks in this particular book, because I've read other things and I've enjoyed them. This one I just find it's tedious. I don't care if they, that she had her guard, a Secret Service man with her, watching what she was eating, who was her, it's just, it's too, I'm reading it and I'm almost finished it, but I don't know if I would recommend it really.
Have any of the rest of you read Marie Benedict before? She wrote The Only Woman in the Room. She wrote Carnegie's Maid, Lady Clementine. I bring this up because next month for our traditional book club, we are actually going to be reading Marie Benedict.
Not this month. Not
this month. Next month. So next month it'll be for The Personal Librarian.
Oh, that, yeah.
By Marie Benedict. And I have copies of that available. Let me know if you'd like me to set one aside for you at the front desk.
That's Carnegie, right? Is that the Carnegie one?
No, that was Carnegie's Maid. So The Personal Librarian is it was a financial corporate
so maybe
Morgan. Someone Morgan?
Oh, yeah.
JP,
thank you. I was like, initials Morgan. And I haven't read it yet because then I wouldn't remember it well enough to talk about it next month. So, but that is what's on our books for next month. I've read a few of her other books. Now, she does write biographical fiction. And this is sort of what Carol's saying is like how much of it is true, how much of it is not. Now, it is fiction. Like these conversations, word for word, of course, did not take place. A lot of the things didn't take place. One of the first books that I read of hers was The Only Woman in the Room. And that one as well, like there were some, we'll say, creative extrapolations made.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. Yeah.
Of what the truth of the matter was. And I just think that it's important to keep in mind that these are fictional works. But that's what leads to the fun of us then being able to talk about it and also look into things further to say like, oh, did this really happen? Or who was this? Recently for another book club, I did City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, which I'm not sure if any of you read, but there were moments in that too. Again, like certain names dropped. I'm like, oh, who's that person? And then you look them up and they're just sort of ancillary characters, or like, oh, did this historical event happen? The Lincoln Highway is another good example for historical fiction but that doesn't deal primarily with real life characters that existed, but there will be some that sort of circle in as sort of side characters to really set you in the scene. And again, there's research involved, but there's also imagination involved.
Well, there's
Why
also
did you
at
choose-
the end of these books, they have historical notes, which brings it all, you read it and you say, oh, is that what it's all about? Is it really true? So the historical notes are quite enlightening.
Although also just to keep in mind is that even when there are historical notes, if they only give one reference, this is the academic nerd in me, so please bear with me. But if there's like one reference for some event, remember that reference, okay, but at the same time, there were probably other people there who might have a different position on how things transpired or why they transpired or what have you.
Well, when they say we changed the date because it reads better, right away that,
Mhm.
oh dear, 3 years early,
did you
when such and
choose-
such didn't happen. Anyhow,
Why did you choose a personal librarian for us to read next?
One of the reasons was because our last book that we read was very fun, was How the Penguin Saved Veronica. It was very
Yeah.
fun and it was light, and I wanted to just switch gears a little bit. But I know that I have a tendency towards picking older books, and part of this is just because there are so many books out there to read that I don't have time to read them, and I don't want certain good ones that I know they were like I'm sure they were good and I didn't get around to them. It doesn't mean that just because it's 5 years old, then it's not worth reading anymore. And so sometimes we forget because we get the new flash in the pans, but also I don't want to forget about the new flash in the pans because sometimes it's fun to read something that everyone else is
What's
talking
your
about too.
criteria? What's your criteria for saying this book is for the book club? Do you know us? Do you know what we like to read? Do you
Well, I
know
do, but I don't necessarily like, I'd say one out of every like 4 or 5, I'll choose that I'll be like, oh, everyone will like this one. It's some of it is that something about the storyline might jump out at me from something that someone has said in one of these meetings. So it's not necessarily everyone. It's that, oh, well, maybe Rona was talking about this, and this makes me think about that conversation. We'll pick it, we'll discuss. Very rarely does it happen, as those of you who've been here before know that we all like a book.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be boring if we all loved it? Then there'd be nothing really to talk about. But also I think it's good to get out of our comfort zones for myself as well. Like I do not lean towards historical fiction in my general reading choices. However, for a lot of my book clubs that I do lean towards historical fiction to choose because I know that in at least 2 of my book clubs, like it's an interest of people who come. And I think that it's interesting to learn more about history and then to do the deep dives and the like delve a little bit further into the stories. And sometimes too, it's really nice to I did a book I to criticize. It's nice to criticize sometimes. So I know that I did a book review with Marie Benedict maybe 3 years ago, and I held myself back from criticizing, but I had a lot of feelings, and my friends were privy to that. My feelings with certain, again, creative um, additions to the histories, and it's interesting to talk about, I think. So so there's no rule. I don't have much of a rule for the books that I choose. One of them, Rona, is we do have to have at the library. I only choose books that we have book club kits for because
that's
I
right,
want to be
yeah.
able to supply enough
Mhm.
copies for
Yeah.
the people who are coming. Um, and other than that, there just has to be something about it that I find interesting for whatever reason. Now, you guys know that I have my recommendation always for when you're picking up a book on your own, you don't know what it is that you want to read, is to open the book at random, read a paragraph. If that paragraph grabs you, great, it's a good book for you now. Because I think that timing is pretty important in our reading habits, and that a book that we pick up today might not interest us if we picked it up 6 months from now or 6 months ago, but it might really grab us right now. So there are things that grab me for some reason or another, and that I limit myself to things that we have book club kits for.
Thank you.
Katie's actually talking to me because she recommended a book and I started reading it and I didn't like it, and I didn't realize she was the one who recommended it. I sent her an email saying, who the heck recommended this book?
Now,
Yeah.
to be fair,
So
Carol,
it could be timing.
to be fair, when I was talking about it, I wasn't recommending necessarily that people read it because, again, it's a weird book. It's for to share with the rest of the class. It's the book Come Thou Tortoise by Jessica Grant. Jessica Grant is a Canadian author. She's East Coast. This is the only full-length novel that she's written that I know of. She has another collection of short stories. And the book is told in alternating chapters between the main character, who's called Audrey Flowers, and her tortoise. So it's not for everyone. It's a bit weird, but I have read that book at least 7 times. I have purchased it at least 5 times because I buy it and then I give it away, and then I buy another copy so that I can give it away again if ever I want. Because she's only written the one book and I want her to get money.
Well, you're doing a good job.
So that's the book that we're talking about. I didn't recommend it for necessarily other people to read because I know it's a bit weird, but every time I read it, I love it more.
What's it called again?
It's called Come Thou Tortoise, and it is by Jessica Grant. And it is
Come thou towards what?
No,
Come Thou Tortoise.
The animal. Guess who speaks? An animal. Another one.
Oh, it's like okay. But what was that one we read about?
Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Yeah.
Yes, that was excellent.
So this is, it has come up more than once in our book talks in the last few years, Come Thou Tortoise, but it came up again most recently because we were talking about Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is Shelby Van Pelt, I believe. And it's another book that's told, occasional chapters are written from the perspective of an octopus.
A tortoise. A tortoise.
Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Oh, yeah.
Octopus.
Yeah.
Rona, I'll read the tortoise one and let me know. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna let you do that, Carol.
All right.
Do that.
I'll have to do it again just because I feel badly that I opened my mouth and said it was horrible, and she's read it 7 times.
I'll let you be the judge before I think I read it. Okay.
All right, Terry, tell us what you've been reading.
Well, first of all, I didn't know if I was going to be invited because I never got anything. So I just quickly wrote something down. Okay. But I did read The Remarkably Bright, because you mentioned it last time. So I read it. I enjoyed it. There's another book that I read for my book club that I have this week. It's called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yep.
I'm not recommending it. We all thought it'd be interesting. So far, I've heard from other people, they didn't enjoy it either, but we haven't had our discussion yet. So it's a book that's supposed to be a good book anyhow. But the book that I did read is a small book, and it's called Truth Telling. And it's interesting, one of the things that I like, I don't know about you guys, but if I hold a book and it's easy to hold and it's light and it turns quickly, somehow it's just, I find it easy and it makes a big difference for me. I mean, and this is one of these books. It's a hardcover book. It's small and it's just easy to hold and to read. And it's by Michelle Good, who wrote The 5 Little Indians that I enjoyed. But this is nonfiction. It's about the indigenous. And it is an easy book to read and you learn from it. I mean, it's easy, but you're learning. It's quite instructive and it talks about the things that we think we know But when you read this, there you realize there's so much more. There's just so much more that she gives a lot of examples of things that are currently still happening and things that have happened in the past. It makes a lot more sense of, you know, their concerns and their complaints and all the things that have happened to them. You really get a much better understanding of it. She even discusses how Indigenous art and poetry and books written have made a big difference for them. And she'll, you know, she suggests, you know, different ones. So I just found that it's short, it's only about 200 pages, and it's informative and it's easy to read. And it's also, you can pick it up and put it down, you know, like, yeah.
I think that's
The
great
title?
because I think a lot of things dealing with hard subjects can be scary for people outside of the communities to read or to pick up. And I think that there's something like there are very, very positive things to be said with things that are simply, straightforwardly written, that they promote accessibility to understanding, to further deeper understandings. And it sounds like that's,
It is, yeah,
yeah,
that's what it
that's
was.
great.
Terry, what's the title again?
Let
Truth
me
telling.
think. Truth telling,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's more
Oh,
informative than enjoyable. I mean, but it's very
yeah.
informative and yeah, yeah.
But so this is something that I found with so in terms of indigenous experiences, there's a book called There. I think it's by Tommy Orange and it's American. There's Five Little Indians, of course. There's uh uh was it Ragged Company? There are certain books of fiction that allow a little so it ends up because it's a narrative arc, it lets unlike truth telling, but because she kind of has this gateway with Five Little Indians and how well that was received and like critically as well as publicly, that again that let us sort of those of us who have not been forced to experience these experiences to absorb them in a kind of easily digestible way. That sounds probably not as positive as I mean for it to sound. Similarly, I remember when the Book of Negroes came out, talking about the slave experience, it was very different than 12 Years a Slave, right? 12 Years a Slave was a lot more challenging emotionally and like harder to read, whereas the Book of Negroes was a lot like it was a gentler sort of way to teach people about the realities of the slave experience in the States. I think that there has to be a balance so that you can go further. And it sounds like that's I mean for us for those of us who don't have these experiences to get them a little bit. There was a memoir also that came out years ago, probably like 30 years ago, by Alice Sebold. So she wrote The Lovely Bones. It's a
Oh, I
work of
remember
fiction. That one
that.
was very popular. Before that, she came out with a memoir called Lucky, and it's the story of her rape. And it's another sort of like it's a very heavy experience, but that was told in a narrative way that was easier to digest. And I think that for like if a man picked it up and read it, it would be easier to read and to be able to identify with that experience than if it was, you know, fact, graphic, hard. And so it allows for a little bit more, again, of an opening to other people's experiences, other groups' experiences as well. That's a bit Debbie Downer, isn't it? I don't want to end on that. We're not going to end on that. Would you like me to tell you about some of the garbage that I've been reading?
Yeah.
It was the holidays, and my holiday period was jam-packed. My kids were out of school. I have two kids, 9 and 11, and they were out of school since the end of November. And then so my husband and I were taking them to work with us, alternating taking them to work with us until the holidays hit and we had some time off, and then we were traveling to visit family, and then family is wonderful, but also challenging, of course. And so with all of that, I've been reading very light things. One of the books that I read, and one of the genres that I find I always want to read in December. I don't know what it is about winter, but I want to read mysteries. I always want to read kind of like I want to read a murder mystery, and I like it to be somewhat cozy. And so I actually reread a book by another Canadian author called Susan Juby. She is a West Coast writer, and she wrote a book called A Mindful Murder. Now, she's got a part 2 of this kind of series coming out in the next few months. But Mindful Murder, the amateur detective in it is not only a former Buddhist monk, but she is also a butler. And and it was delightful. It was the perfect thing to like after, some family time, then just reading a little bit of escapism with a murder mystery happening on an island in BC. And I just finished a romance novel. Carol, I know your ears are perking up. A romance novel called A Night Like This. And it is sort of a modern Cinderella story. British and modern, I already said. The main character is in her early 30s, which is at least better than, I'm sorry to be ageist, but at least it's better than a character who's in her early 20s, which I find so many.
Right.
And it's delightful. It's a very easy, fast read. But the writing is good. It's candy, but it's not the kind of candy that's rotting out your teeth. It's the kind of candy that you're like, okay, I'll eat a proper meal later, but I'm very much enjoying this.
Mhm.
That's some of my garbage that I've been reading. That's a little bit lighter than
How do you find them, Katie? How do you find them? Do you just go online, you go in the library? How do you know what you want to pick up?
So if I see something that interests me, I do follow my own advice here. I pick it up and I open it and I read a paragraph. And if that paragraph
A
does something,
library or a bookstore? A library, a bookstore,
usually
or
in libraries, sometimes it's
Mhm.
online that I'll read it. I am unlike Carol without an E in that I rarely try and find out more about a book before I read it. I don't like as much as it's funny. It's a funny dichotomy. I am a big rereader of books. I reread books all the time. Um, the ones that I love that I just want to be back in that world or with those characters, those friends. Uh, but at the same time, the first time that I read a book, I don't want to know where it's going. I
right.
I want to be
understand.
surprised. So I am looking forward to that Nita Prose book, the next, because I did find The Maid. I was surprised that I found The Maid delightful because I read it shortly after it came out, but long enough after it came out that people were already talking about it. And I don't like having expectations of how much I'm going to like a book. Um, but a lot of the times, Rona, it's the cover. The cover will be like, oh, that's what I'm in the mood for. Or else I hear something about some element of the storyline. So, like the Susan Juby, for example, I've read her before. She has another book, that beautiful title, perfect title. It's called The Wofield Poultry, like chickens, The Wofield Poultry uh, Collective. And in the first, like I've said before, I like kind of weird books and I do like to laugh a lot. And so in the first chapter, I believe, of that book, it has this character who um, is very not relatable. Like I couldn't relate a lot to her perspectives, but in the first like chapter, she dumps accidentally, or else her clueless boyfriend dumps a container of vermiculture, so that's like worms composting
Mm.
things all over his like nice clothes and stuff, and it was a laugh out loud moment, and then I was like, okay. You've got me.
Who wrote The Maid? Who wrote The Maid? So I
Nita
won't pick-
Prose.
Nita.
Nita, Nita. Prose, Prose. And she's
So
a
it has
Toronto
nothing to do
author.
with that series on Netflix, right? There's nothing
No.
to do with that. That's what I want to make sure, okay? Can we pick up the personal librarian at the library?
Yes, that's it. Before we sign off, let me know who
I
wants
would.
a copy
I
set aside.
do.
Terry, you'd like a
Yep.
copy. Rona, you'd like a copy. Arlene, would
Yeah.
you like me to set aside a copy for you? You're good. Carol, without an E, would you like a copy?
Left. She left.
No, Carol E is not there right
I
now,
read
but
it.
she already told. You read it, so you don't need a copy set aside for you. Then I
Well,
won't.
you know what? Give me a copy because I read it a long time ago.
Okay, I will. And then
Thank you.
you're welcome. I'll send a follow-up email also at making the announcement of our next month's book. And then anyone is feel free to write me back if you want it. And that's it.
And somebody read Homecoming. You promised me you're gonna read
Yes.
Homecoming. Let me know if I know what I'm
Well,
talking about. Maybe
Rona, I'm not promising you that I read anything anymore because I failed you so spectacularly
No,
the
it's
last time.
okay. Don't be silly. Don't be, you never fail. You never fail.
But Carol with an E, just before we go, I'll tell you Homecoming by Kate Morton. It might be that you looked it up using it as 2 words. It's 1 word in our.
I
word.
got it. I found
Found
it.
it.
Thank you, under.
It's not that. It's just Homecoming. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Kate Morton.
Katie, I'm sorry, I had to run out, you know.
That's
children
okay.
always
We're
call
Okay,
you,
we're
doesn't matter
finished.
their age. The book for the next time, I'm coming into the library soon. If you're there, could you?
It'll
leave it?
be up there. It'll be up
Okay,
there
good.
waiting for you. I'll set the copies
good.
aside as soon as we sign off.
Oh, okay, no, that's great.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I
And
missed your,
what's the date in February?
February 13th.
13th.
Okay.
Okay,
Lucky
great.
number 13.
Oh, for sure.
And you
Okay.
count yourselves lucky that I'm not making us all read romance like I did last time.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
For
I
Valentine's Day.
pulled out of that club. Yeah, okay. 13th.
Thank you all so much for coming. This
Thank
has
you.
been
It was
a
wonderful as
delight
usual.
as always.
Thank
And do feel free to get in touch if there's any questions, anything that you want, anything that you want to change, anything.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Good to see you all.
Great to see you all. Take care.
Arlene, good for you for joining us. I
Thank
hope
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you for welcoming me,
Oh,
even though I
hey.
didn't hear the welcome, but thank you. It was
So
fun.
nice to have
It
you.
was
Thank
fun, and
you.
I've written down books. I'll be looking for them.
Yeah.
It was great.
Like-
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
Make sure you
Bye,
know where they come
everybody.
from. You don't want to insult Katie. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very easily insultable.
Right.
Insultable.
Bye, Addie. Okay.
Bye.
Bye, bye. Thank you. Thanks, Katie.